coming to you from the interweb dungeon. Tonight, I am doing something a little different than I normally do. I am reviewing a new film. I know, right? Now, the reason I'm reviewing this film is because it's based on a classic film that they decided they needed a remake of. Now, what this film is called, Poltergeist. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen the original, and you're asking yourself the same question I asked myself: why? Why do they need to remake something that doesn't need to be remade? So tonight, I actually have a special guest star in the dungeon with me who also saw this film. So let's give it up for Vince Maniaci.
Maniaci?
What?
Maniaci.
It doesn't matter.
I'm here from Box Office Maniacs.
Kind of like the name.
You should like the name.
So Vince, let's get right into the review here. Alright, so the original Halloween was, of course, a classic.
Halloween was a classic, but we're talking about Poltergeist.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, I had a couple drinks over at the interweb bar and before I came to the dungeon.
You gonna be able to make it through this one?
Maybe. You know how it is.
Especially after I saw this movie. I had to have a few drinks.
So the original Poltergeist was a classic film. And watching it as a younger Dave Decay, it scared the crap out of me.
Being 12 years old and watching this film and I wanted to hide under my bed for weeks, except there was a clown doll underneath it.
The original film was not only was it scary, but it was gross as well. It had a lot of really shocking images, even back then, for a film that was rated PG.
Right. I mean, it was... the whole face peeling thing just, was disgusting, but fun.
Absolutely. It was just an amazing sequence. And I won't forget to mention that the film was also directed by Tobe Hooper,
who directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Absolutely.
The other thing about Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist, is that it had such a great, solid story. And because it was so good, and because it was so solid, even to today's standards, yeah, it might be a little dated as far as technology and cars and things like that, but it still holds up. I mean, if you were to show it to your kids, you'd scare the bejesus out of them.
Now, if you show the new one to your kids, they'd probably be asleep halfway through the movie.
Alright, let me tell you my problem I had with this, Dave.
Let me hear it.
Like I said, the original had such a great, solid story. In here, they take that story, and it's there, but they tried to put in the original scares and do them a different way, hence making it a remake. The whole meaning of what those things, why those things happened, is taken away out of this movie. So the original scares aren't scary. And it's not just because you've already seen them. They're just not scary anymore because the whole point of them being there is not there any longer.
There's many things I did not like about this movie, but the one thing I really did not like about this movie was the entire cast.
Really?
I thought the acting in this film was atrocious. It seemed like everybody was there to just get a paycheck and then walk out the door. I didn't really feel for any of these characters, and that's what made the first one so special, was because you really felt for these characters. And when Carol Ann was in the TV and the mother hears her voice for the first time, I mean, that's a great emotional sequence. In this, it was just kind of like, oh, there she's in the TV. All right, I'm going to go get a beer.
Right. I totally agree. I mean, there's plenty of stuff in there like that. Take, for instance, they use almost the same exact dialogue in some scenes. Like, in the original, they talk about the car that went across the room or across the countertop. It took 7 hours for it to make the thing, and he caught it on time-lapse camera. They changed that up in here and say it was a piano. I always liked the way Craig T. Nelson dealt with that. But in here, they do that line, and they use this ridiculous part where he's like, just to make the joke of, well, I hope you caught that on your camera.
And here, I can say that whoever the actor was that played the dad in this movie, I hated this guy. He was unlikable. They made him to where he wasn't even a likable character. I mean, he was just a drunk, out of work guy, and he was just an unlikable character. And you know, that's again going back to the original, that the family was so likable, and the dad was cool, and mother was cool, and they were a cool family, and all this just craziness happens to them.
Well, Dave, you know, any movie that they have to use the smallest character or the littlest character in the whole film to explain the plot, the entire plot at the end of the film, they relied on that to actually explain it, is just ridiculous.
The way they did it in the original film was so great, where when they reveal the plot, you were like, oh wow, that's amazing. And this is just like a throwaway. They're like, oh yeah, this is what happened, and here you go. I mean, there was no even real thought that went into it, no emotion that went into it.
Exactly. There is no heart to this film whatsoever. None of the charm, none of the heart, none of the scare. I mean, what they really needed to do with this movie, seriously, what they really needed to do with this movie to make it scary, to make it an actual remake, they could have just left the basic plot of the story and made new scares. Why was that so hard to do? I don't understand that. They relied on the original stuff and then changed them up so they weren't scary anyway. And then some of the new stuff that they do put in here is kind of interesting, but it's not really scary.
The scariest thing in this entire movie, Vince, was the squirrel.
I like the idea. They had a couple ideas in here that weren't too bad, but they didn't go anywhere. That was my thing.
Yeah, I didn't like anything what they were doing in this film at all. I just thought it was a stupid idea to remake a film like this. And when they did remake it, I'm just pulling a leaf out of my beard. I don't know how I got there.
It fails. That's the problem. It's a big disappointment.
What was so great about the original film is they left it to your imagination. And that's what was so great about it. You didn't know what was in that closet. You just seen that bright light, and it was, and in your head, you were seeing what Carol Ann was seeing, and you didn't get to see it. In this film, they do show it, and it's stupid.
Oh, and the little girl too. I mean, when they take Carol Ann in the original film, when they take her away, the whole point of her going away is because the spirits they wanted what she had, and that was her innocence and her life and her life force. They say it in the film. None of that's in here. When they take this girl, it's because she's a psychic. What the hell?
Again, I hated this film, and I don't say that too often, but this is one of the worst remakes I have ever seen, and they just need to stop making remakes. Just stop, unless you can make something better or equal to the original like they did with Evil Dead.
The whole thing with the clown doll scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. I mean, that's like the one scare in the original Poltergeist that has scared me for years. And in here, they have a creepy doll, and they have a box of creepy dolls, which I thought was, all right, well, this might be an interesting idea. But they go nowhere with it. That's the problem with this movie. It goes nowhere.
All right, Vince, so let's bring up the meter and see what we're going to give it. For me, I think you already know. This movie is a 1 out of 5.
Well, I would have to give it just a bit more because like I said, I like the ideas that they were coming up with. I just wish they had actually done something with it. So I liked it a little bit more than that, and I'd give it a 2.
Hopefully you will come back and visit the dungeon or even the interweb bar when you get a chance.
This has been great, Dave. I'm glad I got the chance to come here. So please subscribe to Dave Decay's show, and please subscribe to Box Office Maniacs.
This would be, so far, in my book, the worst remake I have ever seen.